Hello gamers, welcome to another edition of tonight on Mage Hammer's Game Table, where I'm actually having a Mage Hammer's Musings. I have gotten several questions over the course of many videos about, hey, where'd you get that map? Hey, what's the dice? What's that playmat you're using? And so I decided that I'm going to feature the accessories that I use during my role-playing game sessions. Specifically, my solo game sessions, because things look a little different when I play face-to-face. I tend not to use map tiles. I use Theater of the Mind when I'm playing face-to-face with my crew. And then also when I play solo, which I actually haven't done in quite a while, because the time I do have to spend playing solo, I spend making videos, and the video solos are, I play them. They look a little different than they do when it's just me here at the table. And I know Solo Spelunking did a video on the differences between when he's off camera and how he solo plays and when he is on camera. And pretty much, I am pretty much the same way with him. I don't get out all the miniatures and everything and the map tiles for my own solo gaming. I pretty much use a journal, roll some dice, and just kind of write in the journal as I go. But for the videos, I like to make them a little bit more visually engaging for my audience. So I have, over the years, invested in quite a few of these. When I was playing D&D 3.5, I needed like a lot of tiles, a lot of miniatures. So a lot of what you see on my video is the spillover from my 3.5 days, as well as Savage Worlds, which we went into shortly after 3.5, before going back to Castle Crusades and back to Theater of Mind. Anyway, in 3.5, you needed miniatures, and Savage Worlds prefers miniatures, though they're both possible to play without, but yeah, you needed them. Anyway, then, since I started solo playing, like these Arknight map tiles, I started picking these up for the videos. This stuff I had, and I picked up some science fiction ones for when I started doing some science fiction and so forth. So, I guess I'm just going to go over this really quickly, just so you guys have an idea. All right, so for fantasy, as well as pulp, as well as science fiction, these are very versatile. I have the cobblestone. I have the Arknight maps. Now they're pretty solid pieces of cardboard, and that, like most of the flip tiles I'm going to be showing you, they are double-sided, and it's Arknight. I got them on Amazon. So this is the Cobblestone City. And that played prominently in my Danger Devil series. You can go check that out at my playlist for it. The Uncharted Isles, which I have actually not used a whole bunch, just a little bit. I just recently got these, actually. I'm planning another pulp video series featuring my Daring and Dangerous role-playing game. And this may or may not feature prominently in that. But it's kind of the same thing. You can see what each of the tiles is on the back there. And they're right up front. There's, it's a jungle. I need a jungle map pretty badly. I mean, I've played jungle series on here, but I didn't like the jungle that I had. So this, I got some textures. I just recently used the desert one for my Gravity Drives and Dangers, featuring the Space Temple Raiders. Once again, this is the same size. See, they're gridded off, but it's kind of like one of those, phantom grids, I call it. And they have lava, ice, swampy, and desert. So I thought, wow, that's really versatile. I can use that for pretty much any of the series genres that I play solo here on the channel, so those would be good. Winding Caverns, I have featured these a little bit in my pulp, mostly, I think. So yeah, this is kind of like caves that I use, the Winding Caverns, and this is the entrance to the cave. And yeah, so these are really nice, and you can see they have quite a few different layouts for it. So yeah, and then I got the Coliseum pack. Famously, it was in my last Daring and Dangerous campaign where they were on a dirigible. I used this ship tile as a dirigible. There's also an arena, a graveyard, Highland Home, and the graveyard. The graveyard's really going to come in handy at some point too, by the way. But anyway, these are really great maps. They're easy to pull out real fast, and like you can just one tile can be like a full encounter, really. They're so big. And they come in these nice plastic containers. Some of them have a little Velcro tab on it, and some do not, but they all fold up in there really nicely, and they're easy to store, and I really like those. For my more traditional dungeon, I go back to my old map tiles that I bought during 3.5. Recently, I bought the whole thing again, the retro set, because it has the sewer. And I swear I had the sewer at one point, but I can't find it anymore. So I have these tiles. If you remember, I used to use little wooden slats to mark off my dungeon walls. But in the end, I really didn't quite like the way it looked, you know, but that was a quick way to get the dungeon down. Then I realized, you know what, I have these dungeon tiles. I'm just going to make these the dungeon hallways. So, you know, I have a whole plethora of these, you know, and you've seen these many times. You watched any of my fantasy campaigns. I use them quite a bit in my videos, and I have all kinds of these. I have, you know, I just have all kinds, and they really come in handy. And they're just whip them out, put them down on the board, and there you got yourself the battlefield. And so I really enjoy using those. All right, so those map tiles. I have these little doors I bought on Amazon, these little wooden doors. They have little wooden stands. But since I've been going top down, I just kind of am using like this. It just pretty much indicates where there's a door, double door, that the characters need to go through. And these are really come in handy, along with these barrels from Warhammer 40K. These actually work well as pillars, which I'm sure you've seen many times in my videos, but these are Warhammer 40K, and I got them in one of my terrain sets from that. Also, I have some scatter terrain, quote unquote, is what we call in wargaming, but for role-playing games from Arknight as well. I bought one of their smaller packs that has like underground stuff. So we got some mushrooms, a little mound here, a little crevice. This could be a crystal, you know, this could be a really big mushroom. Like, and you can just kind of scatter them around on the floor as you go. Some of you also know that I use wargaming terrain every once in a while in my videos as well. I got these crystals from Monster Fight Club. These are really cool and versatile. I can use them for fantasy, pulp, and science fiction. I really, really like them. I've used them several times in my videos. I'm sure that you've seen those as well. I have but I have several pieces of Monster Fight Club scenery because I play one-page rules Grimdark Future quite a bit, or I used to, but gonna get back to it. And but their scenery is really good in Monster Fight Club because it comes pre-painted. I'm all about pre-painted, folks. All right, so I know that you've seen many of my videos that include my miniatures. I have containers and containers of miniatures that I've collected over the years. You know, when my local Walden Books went out of business, I bought a ton of D&D miniatures, Star Wars miniatures too, when my Borders went out. And so, because I'm all about pre-painted, because for the longest time I didn't paint miniatures. So I'm going to take this off of the rack here, and I've got a bunch of these with miniatures there, miniatures in those there. A little behind the scenes here in my studio. Miniatures here. These are mostly science fiction and pulp and superhero miniatures. More miniatures there. So, and yeah. So that's pretty much, I have the miniatures and I pull out the ones before the game that I really need. You know, I have my pulp miniatures here, some big monster miniatures here. And so I have them close at hand so I can take them out and get them going. Back to map tiles. So for my sci-fi map tiles, I have Space Station starter set, and I've mixed it together with the Space Station Corridors expansion set. And so you've seen these on my videos as well, but they are Starfinder flip tiles by Paizo. And you know, it's all these little flip tiles, double-sided. They have these nice little dividers that I can use to divide the ones I'm using. So I put the expansions in with the regulars. I got this City Starter set, which I actually bought originally for my 6 Dice Wastelands game that I designed. I currently don't have any plans for a Delves and Dangers style post-apocalyptic game. I get the itch for post-apocalyptic every once in a while because I'm a huge Gamma World fan from back in the day. Gamma World 2E, no, Gamma World 4E really is the best. Anyway, so, but eventually I probably will create a post-apocalyptic game. I just don't really, it's not in development right now. But these city tiles are really, really cool. And then I've bought the City Hazards expansion, and I also bought Alien Planet Ruins expansion. And I kind of mixed these together. I mixed them together in my last episode to create the ruins of Zethar 5, the Zethar-Mon civilization. And it really was, you know, pretty cool. I got these at my friendly local game store. I think I got my Space Station starter set off Amazon, and the starter sets, but then I bought the expansions of my friendly labor Infinite Realms here in Girard, Ohio. So if you're ever near Girard, Ohio, stop in Infinite Realms, give those guys a look. They got some great stuff. All right, so that's my flip tiles. I showed you my miniatures. I'm not going to take them all out, but you see how I kind of have it organized. Okay, now I have this. This is kind of like my default. It's a big playmat, gridded out nice, and it's relatively sticky. So you put stuff on it, it's not real slidey. Okay, I'm not saying it's like gluey, but it's definitely it's a high friction surface that I really like. And it's pretty much a good default, dungeon background and so forth. I flop my dungeon tiles down on it, boom, and then it's just a nice backdrop. And in a pinch, you can just do for the field. Underneath that, I actually ordered this grass playmat from Ganesha Games, who makes Song of Blades and Heroes. They have their own playmat. I ordered that, and that pretty much sits on this table and is the basis for this table. And if I need a wilderness encounter real quick, I can whip off this dungeon mat and throw it down, and I'm good to go. So that's for playmats, tiles, miniatures. I have this cool bamboo dice tower. You've seen this featured. I know John from Sharp Mountain Games is really big into his little into his dice tower, and I use it occasionally. But I don't use it too often because most of the time I'm playing my game, which has lots of D6s, and so you throw them in here, and it's kind of hard to kind of get in there, and when you have exploding dice, pick the exploding dice out and roll them. It's just a lot easier to do it across the table. But I really like this cute little dice tower. It has magnets, and it stays there. So I think this is relatively inexpensive on Amazon as well, and I think there are other designs, but I got the little skull one. And it's really, really fun. Just for the heck of it, I also have my son got me a Invincible dice tray. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I am working on, in development, actually down on the page, a superhero version of Delves and Dangers, using the Delves and Dangers engine. I got a superhero system coming. Probably won't get it out till next summer, but that's okay. I released Gravity Drives and Dangers this summer, so I'll release another game next summer. But yeah, so I'm going to be working on that as we go through. But this is a really nice, soft dice tray. And, it's Invincible. I mean, come on. Who doesn't love Invincible? Love Invincible. All right, so anyway, so that's pretty cool. Then, of course, I have my Gamma World mug that's holding my writing utensils and dry erase markers. I also have some chopsticks down here for pointing at things. You know how Geek Gamers, she used to use or tends to use her little knitting needle? I use chopsticks. So in fact, I think I'm going to use this chopstick today. Yes, then tokens. So I am obsessed. I've been obsessed since Fantasy Flight Games came out with them several years back. These gaming tokens, okay? And then when Fantasy Flight Games acquired Keyforge, or when Ghost Galaxy Games acquired Keyforge off of Fantasy Flight Games, I think they also acquired the rights to make these plastic tokens. I am obsessed with these tokens. I use them for so many things, both in my solo RPGs and my tabletop RPGs face-to-face. I have all kinds of different colors. For a while, there were like only 4 colors when Fantasy Flight had them, but Ghost Galaxy has come out with all kinds of different colors, and they have these cool fantasy names. Yeah, so I have a bunch in here too. So anyway, so I love these tokens. I use them for spell points. I use them for spell slots if I'm playing a game of spell slots. Using the mark conditions on field. They're plastic. They are just so fun. They're really one of the great simple pleasures of my life. They're just so much fun to play with. But yeah, I get those at my friendly name. The Fantasy Flight Games one I ordered, I think, on Amazon. But ever since Ghost Galaxy got them, I've been buying them at my friendly local game store there, the Infinite Realms. I bought these little boxes of things off Amazon. So those are tokens. I love those tokens. I pretty much exclusively use those pretty much there. Okay, so next up, let's go with dry erase. So I got these dry erase note cards. I also have these dry erase playing card size dry erase, and I swear I had one prepared and ready to go. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I use them to track life. I use a dry erase marker, and I mark. Let's say I had Captain Dave, and then he had 21 stamina, so he takes 4 points of damage, and he is at 17 stamina. And I just track it on there, kind of off screen, kind of help keep the illusion. But yeah, it's dry erase, and then boom, and that's how I track stamina. I track rounds. I track different things with that. These are really cool. I got a good set of these off Amazon, and it's a no card on one side, of course, a blank side on the other. I also have playing card size tote things that I unfortunately cannot find, but I swear I had at this table in preparation for this video. Things disappear. I swear I have gremlins in this house. It's possible. Anyway, but dry erase. I love dry erase because for years, I would use like a, sticky note pad or like a pad of paper, and I'd take those, then have to throw it out, and then that's just more waste and so forth. So instead of using those normally, I use dry erase. I also still use regular old note cards to record character stats on it, creature stats that I'm taking off the fly, have them ready before the game. Note cards are they're a gamer's best friend next to dice. They're just amazing. So that's how I keep track of things during the game. I am not a big journaler during the game. I journal when I play by myself, and it's not really a journal. I basically write a script of the role-playing session. And I think I've talked about it before. I've even shown it a couple times on video. But I don't really journal during. I just kind of go from video to video. I'll go back and review the last part of the video to make sure I'm going in the right direction for the next video. So that's kind of how I keep track of things. But so I consider the videos like a record of that. So anyway, so I know a lot of people use journaling. Soul Spelunking, Tabletop Wanderer use journals when they're playing. I think John from Sharp Mountain Games uses like note cards and keeps notes on his note cards, which I do in my tabletop role-playing game sessions face-to-face, but I don't do it for solo because I have the video. And speaking of dice, all right, so my most recent obsession is Baron of Dice. Oh, there it is. There's the card. These are little dry erase cards. You can draw an erase on about the size of a playing card. I use those to track stamina. All right, so I love these Baron dice because they are resin dice, and they're just so cool. So I've got 12 millimeters, and I got 16 millimeter Baron of dice. These are my Tome Keeper dice, and I love these. They have a nice matte feel to them. These are a little bit shiny. These are like matte feeling. I don't know if you really can't experience unless you touch them. And then when you order them straight from Baron of Dice, they come in these really cool tins. And I just love these dice. I just love them to death. They're just so fun to roll. They just feel good in your hands. They're just awesome. So I have 3 sets of 12 millimeter. I have 2 sets that I bought from Baron of Dice Direct. This one I guess would be like for Grey Knights. This one is for like Tome Keepers, which are Space Marine faction Warhammer 40k. But I don't play Warhammer 40k per se, but I do play Grimdark Future, and so it uses D6s, so those work out beautifully there. I have these really cool trays. I don't know if you've seen these trays. I got these trays at like Target or somewhere, maybe TJ Maxx, I don't remember, but they are great to have here on my table and help kind of keep everything organized and ready to go. Then I also, for the enemies, I tend to use these Games Workshop Warhammer dice, because they have a little skull on one, and in my game you roll 1. That's not great. Plus, it's also a skull is also an indication of the enemy, so I like using these dice for the enemy, and I use the Baron of Dice for me. If I have more characters and I have Baron of Dice sets, then I end up playing Chessex. I pretty much exclusively use Chessex D6s. I bought a ton of them off of Amazon, different colors, represent different things. I have a ton of Chessex dice, and I love them. But the Baron of Dice, they're a little more expensive, but oh, they're so awesome. All right, and I have all kinds of other dice. Like this one, for example, I picked up. I don't even know what brand this is, but it's like, like infection dice, D6s. So I have like all kinds of different dice all over the place. I used to be a huge Q Workshop dice guy. I've had my Q Workshop dice in storage though. The plastic was fine, but it just wasn't doing it for me anymore. Plus, I've moved away from D20 games. So I have a bunch of my old D20s. Mostly it's Chessex Crystal Cast, and I use those. Oh, I have these nice big 20-sideds and nice big 6-sideds I use as markers. I mean, you guys have seen that. I use this little cube. It's a lighted cube. I used it as the captain's seat in my When Gravity Drives in Danger series. I actually got this at Disney World in a drink that I got in Epcot. And it turns different colors. I think I had it on blue to match the thing, but it's really a cool glowing cube. It's really cool. Just adds a little extra lighting effect. All right, so next up is the best game accessory I ever bought in my entire life next to dice. Deck of Many Dungeons. I've talked about this in so many videos. But it is the way I randomly generate my dungeons, and I know there's many different ways to randomly generate dungeons, and I know after a while if you use the same system, some of the dungeons seem to be a little bit samey, but I just don't care. I just love these cards. So the king is an end place, the aces are beginning places, and then everything in between is a dungeon hall, and you can place them together. It marks secret doors. It has different kinds of effects, like this magic pool here. It signals where the monsters are going to quote unquote spawn. There's sounds that you can roll. They even have monster lists. If you don't want to use your own encounter tables, you can use their encounter tables, and it scales for PC level. So that's the thing I like about it the most, is it tells me when the monsters appear, and that is huge. I have the Elven Ruin expansions mixed in with the normal core set. The little Elven Ruin ones have a little elf leaf next to it. Secret doors, treasures, traps, NPCs. So it tells you where the traps are, when the traps happen. It's just literally a dungeon generation in a box, and it pretty much ticks all the boxes. Now, these monsters here, I don't see any reason for people not to use those, but I like to have my own encounter tables because of my own game, and some of the creatures here are not necessarily featured in my game, or I felt that they didn't make any sense. I know they're random, but they don't necessarily make any sense for the dungeon sometimes. Anyway, I create my own encounter tables, but there's nothing wrong with using theirs. I think it's a really good system. So these are just awesome, awesome, awesome. And if you've watched any of my fantasy games, you know that I use these all the time. And yeah, and they have these little cards too. Random quest generator, random trap generator, NPCs and quest items, Yeah, so it's just basically a random generation deck in a box. Like, you can pretty much set any rule set you want and use these. And Four Against Darkness, even if you just got tired of rolling those dice for Four Against Darkness, just pull this out and make your own dungeon. It's just awesome. Now, the same guy, Axebane, who came out with the Deck of Many Dungeons, also came out with these. They're little map tiles. They're little kind of encounter things. You may have seen these when I did my Heroic Harefoots for Hire series, when they went down into the down beneath. It has like Subterranean. I have the Subterranean set. I have the Crypt set. Subterranean and Crypt got mixed together. Then it also has the Dungeon set. And you can just literally take these cards out, and if I get tired of playing with the Deck of Many Dungeons, I just whip these out, and you've got yourself an encounter map. Or if you want to create a map for a dungeon for a night, you want to do a one-shot, or even, just you shuffle them up, you put them down, you have the arrows pointing in the right directions, and you've got yourself a dungeon map practically instantly. So, and of course, it's the really cool drawing of the artist that does it. And on the back, you can take little notes as to which encounter is which. So, like, on the back, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You in dry erase, and then you just crib down what monsters, what the traps are, or whatever, if you want to generate your own dungeons. I still prefer to use the Deck of Many Dungeons because it shows you when the monsters trigger. But each to their own, right? So these little map tiles, you can buy them on Game Crafter as well. So I bought Deck of Many Dungeons and these map tiles on Game Crafter. Relatively inexpensive for hours upon hours upon hours of dungeon crawling fun. Okay, so shout out to my members, Nate, Jamie, Tabletop Wanderer, Todd, Surf Monkey, Kai, and Mom. I also want to mention, if you haven't watched my video announcement video, I have published a book. It is a collection of short stories that I wrote from the years roughly my senior year of high school up until several years into my career. I followed the same characters. I wrote 6 short stories that have those characters in it, and I have finally published it so that everyone out there can download it, read it, get the paperback and enjoy it. I'll put the link in the description below if you're interested in reading some cool fantasy stories. And yeah, I think they're cool, but I wrote them, right? So tell me what you think about that in the comments below. All right, so I think that is a tour of my solo RPG game accessories. I probably missed a few here and there. If you have any questions about what you saw here, please let me know. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching my videos. Next video should be an adventure, but I'm not going to tell you what. So until then, keep on rolling dice and playing games. Mage Hammer out.